Well, what I'm hearing is that Sky Candy was ultimately born from one, a bad breakup, and then two, a boss that made you go out and do it on your own. So there's a lesson somewhere in that. Welcome back, everybody, to Abundant Journey Podcast. Thanks for jumping in with us today. I'm your host, Nick James, along with Nick Offenkamp, my co-host. And Nick, we got a great show lined up today. Tell us a little bit about our new guest.
Yeah, I am absolutely thrilled to have Mike Welsh on. Mike is the owner, founder of Sky Candy Studios, which, Sky Candy Studios has just blown up over the last several years now. And so whether you know of Mike's work or not, you have probably seen it because he has worked with some of the biggest brands throughout the United States. Several colleges and sports teams have hired him to do media stuff for them. And then he's even had a few viral videos that have been reposted by the likes of James Gunn. So you've probably come across his work somewhere, whether on YouTube or social media. Really, really honored to have Mike on. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you're coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, right?
Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm actually in Edina right now, which is just south of Minneapolis at the Lifetime Work. It's kind of the HQ. Basically, live here at Lifetime Fitness.
That's awesome. And Edina, isn't that what's affectionately known as where the cake eaters live from Mighty Ducks?
That's right. Yep. Banks from Mighty Ducks was labeled the cake eater, and it's where all the wealthy people live, and they eat a lot of cake, apparently. So
apparently so.
That's right.
And well, that's I gave kind of the intro to Sky Candy Studios, and I know that there's a whole lot more in terms of your entrepreneurial background than just the drone work and the Sky Candy that you've started. I think even from the first time that you and I met, at that point, you were buying a smoothie bar inside of an LA Fitness. And I know you've also got Airbnb, and you've looked into real estate. You've invested in Bitcoin at different points. So I know that there's a bunch of different ways that we could go with this interview. But since Sky Candy is the main thing that you're doing, I'd love to just kind of get into the backstory of how did you get into building a highly successful business around this very niche area of aerial photography and videography?
Yeah, and I think I got the bug of the entrepreneurship from an early age. I was never great at working for another person or another company. I was a pretty average employee, and which isn't the greatest quality. But I found that I really like building things myself, and I go hard when it's something that it's yours. And so the origin story of Sky Candy basically started in 2010 when I decided to join the Army National Guard. I was at a low point in my life. Girlfriend broke up with me and kind of threw up the hands and said, you know what, I'm just going to join the Army, see what happens. And I was fortunate enough to get a drone operator job with the National Guard, which I didn't know what a drone was at that point. I've heard of it. I flew some Skyhogs back when I was a kid, but they offered me two jobs. They said, you can be a generator mechanic or you can be a drone operator. And I said, yeah, I don't want to be a grease monkey. Let's do drone stuff. And so I was fortunate enough to get Army training, get into this field. And the entire time I was in training, I was researching, how can you make a career out of flying drones? I have this opportunity. What are my options here? And a lot of the options were you can get really skilled at these government drones and go down range to the Middle East and be a contractor. You get, make hundreds of thousands of dollars tax free. And then the other avenue was, there's this new industry that's starting with drones where you could potentially, shoot photos for real estate and, become a videographer through the realms of flying drones. So, So in 2014, I made the decision. I actually I went to Embry-Riddle to tour the school because I was like, well, if I take my military background with a 4-year degree in UAS systems, which stands for unmanned aerial systems, aka drone, I was like, oh, I could be really specialized in this field. And I was really juggling the decision of, do I really go full headfirst into education and becoming an expert on systems, or do I start a company that provides services? And after a long couple days of deliberation and touring the Embry-Riddle down in Daytona Beach, decided on the plane ride back that I'm gonna take a stab at starting Sky Candy.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it started in 2014.
Wow. No, that's awesome. And it's interesting too that your story led you into, as this was a job opportunity in the military, and then you took this step in jumping into, hey, how can I expand on this and grow on this skill set that I've learned? And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs have this idea of, I need to just create something out of nothing, or I'm going to go for something that I know zero about. And we've had a lot of conversations too about, hey, what's just your next pivot move? Like, what's the next closest thing that you can jump into based on what you've been taught and the skills you've learned? And so it seems like you made a pretty
Mhm.
natural transition and just started exploring the opportunities that were at hand.
Yeah, it was just the skill set that I had at the time, and yeah, like you said, I wasn't gonna invent anything. I had that entrepreneurial bug, and I wanted to do something, and it was probably the best asset I had to start a company. So,
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Well, and
Well, and
and we'll
it's
dive more into kind of the early days of that and some of the things that you've learned as you've grown the company. But I'm curious, just in your backstory. I mean, military kind of started because of a low point in your life. Did you grow up saying I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Did you have like different dreams or goals of things you wanted to be, or kind of where did that fall in the line?
No, I don't think I got the bug until my early 20s. I didn't have a ton of ambition. I was really into sports, and all my energy went into being a basketball player. And I played a little basketball in college, and I think there was this unrealistic dream of, like, the NBA was kind of the goal. And
Okay.
so there
Sure.
wasn't there wasn't a ton of thought into, starting a business. And I was I was going to school for criminal justice, and in my path had very little direction. It was kind of like, well, that's something I could maybe do and enjoy. Why don't we try criminal justice and see where it goes? But then after a couple of years of school, it's realizing I'm not an authoritative figure. I don't like that role. And so it's kind of something you have to be. So, um, yeah, I think the desire to build a business grew over time.
Mhm. Well, and I was gonna bringing it back to Sky Candy. It's easy now in 2023. You kind of take aerial photography, videography for granted, in that you see it everywhere. Every real estate listing nowadays has drone photography or some sort of video with it. You see it on a lot more marketing stuff. But turning back the clock to 2014 when you started Sky Candy, I mean, how how many what kind of competition did you have at that point? What kind of model did you have that you were able to follow as you set out, versus how much of this were you just having to figure out in real time and even introduce people to the idea of what a drone is and what you could do?
hmm Yeah, it was so new back then, and there were a couple players that were flying cinema cameras on these single rotor drone helicopters. So it wasn't brand new to the industry. People were doing it, but it was still pretty raw and very dangerous. Um, And so in 2014, there was some new tech coming out where you could to start like the first drone I had. Basically, you'd slap a GoPro on this thing, it unstabilized footage, and you couldn't see what the camera was seeing. So you'd put it up and hit record and hope for the best. Uh,
Wow.
so you weren't getting anything good at that time, but you were getting. It was still so new that people had never seen drone content
Yeah.
before that it would still wow your average viewer. Um, and I was very fortunate to get into this field when I did because it was the forefront of the new technology with stabilized gimbals and being able to actually capture some good looking footage from the sky from a relatively cheap price point. Um,
Mhm.
so in 2014, there was another drone that dropped by DJI, the now biggest drone company in the world. They created this Phantom drone that had a built-in camera, and then you could use your phone to see exactly what the drone is seeing, and you could change settings. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that lined up perfectly for me. Where it was like I made this decision. There's this new technology that not too many people are using, and there's a huge need for this
Mhm.
that people don't know they need it yet, but there's going to be a huge need for it in the next couple of years. And so a lot of things lined up perfectly. And then, once I started filming with this new drone, and it was a big investment for me. I was pretty much broke at that point, and it was a $1,200 drone. It was like
Yeah.
I was going in debt for this thing. So
Yeah.
Sure.
I remember flying it for the first time, and I was like shaky. I was so excited and so nervous at the
Yeah.
same time. Where it was like, wow, this is my future, and
Yeah.
Wow.
um,
Well,
and
there's probably no
one of
obstacle
the
avoidance or
catalysts.
anything on those either. Sorry, I was just saying, like, on your $1,200 investment, no obstacle avoidance, probably limited connectivity. Pretty easy to
Oh
to
yeah,
lose that investment if you're not dead on.
100%. Yeah. 100%. It was I ended up crashing that drone 6 months later because they would sometimes just fly away and no one really knew why. There was something with the compass that it would just get confused and they would head north and take off. And
Wow.
so the technology has fortunately really evolved since then. Um, but one of the videos I created with that drone, and if you look back at it now, it's unwatchable. It's horrible. But at the time, I created a Minneapolis reel where I just flew the drone out all the popular locations around Minneapolis, and it got a lot of traction with local media because it was just so new. And I remember listening to KFan, the local sports talk radio shows, and they were talking about that drone video on the air because it
Uh,
was drones were so new back then. So it was
Yeah.
really cool to just get that type of exposure on a skill set that wasn't even really developed yet. So yeah.
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 Well, and I'm curious as you started that and you were learning and you went from military side to on the personal side and how do I make this a business? Because it was so new, did it sell itself in the footage and people were like, I got to have this? Or did you try to build a marketing strategy? I mean, who was some of your early clients and what were you saying to
Mhm.
them?
Yeah. So I mean, it was a slow start. It wasn't um a lot of the first jobs was real estate, so I was shooting photos and video for real estate, like really boring stuff. I mean, like really cool because it was so valuable
Mhm.
to the industry, because you'd never be able to showcase a lakeshore property like that before where you see the whole property, the house, the lake all in one, and it was just so much more captivating than your typical stuff.
Hmm.
um so that was a big part of the work I was in, and then I was started to just make friends in the industry who would use us for travel films, capturing like 5K event recap stuff. Um, yeah, it was pretty low budget stuff, but when you're broke and you're an early entrepreneur entrepreneur, you appreciate, I mean, any sort of cash flow is nice and you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
It kind of changes everything. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I was happy to go out and shoot a video for $500 because it's a pretty good day rate when you work at a juice bar.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to ask about next is just what the progression looked like from 2014 and you're taking, the jobs that you can get, getting your name out there, $500 here or there, also supplementing with some other gigs and jobs. What was the timeline and how did you scale up from this being a sort of a startup to now, a very established business that you're running?
Yeah, for the first 5 years, it was more of a side hustle that I poured most of my energy into. And so, at the time when I started it, I was engaged. I was, yeah, trying to um, find some foundation in my life. So I had to work. I was working at a juice bar, as you alluded to, Nick, and yeah. So I was making a little bit of money, and then I was working. It gave me the flexibility to do Sky Candy on the side, and I did that for 5 years. And at one point, I was a architectural photographer for a company named CoStar, which was great.
Mhm.
And but I was balancing these two things, and fortunately, Sky Candy kept getting busier and busier, and we were able to get some larger clients over time. And we got more into cinema drones, which opened up the ability to film for feature films, commercials, ad agencies, and that opened up the door to just more and more opportunity. And so a lot of the money we were making was I was constantly just putting it back into equipment and trying to be on the forefront of technology to be able to get these jobs. So, I mean, with drone stuff, it's like you need the skill set, but you also need the equipment to give people,
Hmm.
the directors, what they want. And then in 20, or no, it was actually 2020 is when I felt I should jump in head first and make the jump to do this full time. If it's ever going to be something that's real and sustainable, it's got to take 100% of my energy. Um, and also my boss at CoStar knew I was running Sky Candy, and she she kind of gave me an ultimatum like, "Hey, I know you're occupied with this company. You need to pick one or the other, like
Hmm.
CoStar or Sky Candy." And I I was like, all right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna work harder at CoStar. Like, I didn't want to lose my health insurance. And then I thought about it for about an hour, and I called her back and I said, I'm sorry, I have to quit. And so that's how the end of my corporate career, and then dove headfirst in, and I'm super glad I did.
I love that
Maybe.
you were willing to do that and you saw that. And I'm curious, a lot of times entrepreneurs or folks having a vision or a dream, they want to jump in and either they don't and they kind of ride that fence for a long time, or you see people just kind of throw caution to the wind. I'm curious, from 2014 to 2020, do you wish you would have jumped in sooner? Are you glad that you had it as a side hustle and grew it slowly over time? Just kind of reflecting back on your journey because, could you have jumped in sooner and grown it quicker, or was it necessary to go slow? Just curious of your thoughts there.
I think it was necessary to go slow and build it. I feel like if I went in head first, there's that chance where it could all fall apart, where you basically just run out of money and you don't know what to do, and then you're constantly stressed out. And I think the ability to run it on the side and give 75% energy over those 5 years, it just allowed for it just allowed to slowly build and have lower risk of having it crash and burn. Um, And I think the most important thing over those 5 years was just like quitting was never an option. There was just the persistence of I care about this so much that there's no chance I was ever gonna let it go, despite all the potential hiccups.
Yeah.
Um, and I think having it be more of a part-time job helped with that.
I was going to ask too. I imagine for some of our listeners, they have side hustles that they're slowly growing, maybe in different things that feel like a hobby or a passion project. Um, but they get to that point where their boss is saying, "Hey, we need you to be more dedicated here," and they kind of go through the same process that you went through. Um, could you
Hmm.
unpack that hour of thinking a little bit more for our listeners as far as what was the switch from the initial conversation that you had with your boss to the callback an hour later? What went through your mind that was like, you know what, I'm actually going to go all in on Sky Candy?
Yeah, I think what was keeping me at my employer's job was fear. I think I knew it was time to make the jump, but there's also that fear of the unknown, and I was just wrestling with what that looked like. And there's the comforts of a corporate job is great. There was a company car they gave me. There was really good health insurance. There's the 401k, and uh, that's why they keep employees for 20, 30 years. It's
Yeah.
comfortable, and I wasn't okay just living a comfortable life like that because I didn't enjoy it. It was a good job, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. And so I think in that hour of just thinking through it, it was really great that she gave me that ultimatum of, hey, you've gotta go all in on one of these two things. And it just kind of gave me the ability to take a leap.
Well, what I'm hearing is that Sky Candy was ultimately born from one, a bad breakup, and then two, a boss that made you go out and do it on your own. So there's a lesson somewhere in that.
100%, 100%. And it was really cool. Like the breakup story was great because when when that happened, I felt like a bit of a failure, a bit of like, where's my life going? It just feels like, my most likely to in high school was to live in a van down by the river, as a joke. But I was, I was a bit of a screw up. So I think there's always been a little chip on my shoulder on like, I need to prove people wrong. I wasn't, more than just a class clown. And after that breakup happened, I felt that chip once again. And I remember being in the military, in basic training, being so adamant of like not getting kicked out of basic training. I had a bad knee. And I was like, I'm gonna fight through this knee where I'm limping on these runs because I felt like if I flunked out of the military, it would just be another piece of failure. And I remember being um so persistent on this. There's in the lunches and the meals ready to eat, the MREs, there's candy, and everyone would sneak the candy. You weren't supposed to do it. I didn't touch candy for the 3 months, even though everyone was doing it, even though I have a huge sweet tooth, because of the fear of failure. And I was like, there's just no way. And I think there was an element of grit of like, I'm not going to lose again. I'm not going to flunk out of the military. And then that carried over to Sky Candy, where it's like, I'm not going to see this thing fail. I'm going to just continue this out no matter what happens. Um, and so, yeah, I think the rock bottoms can be really helpful sometimes.
Yeah. I love that grit, and I also wanted to. You talked about the changing technology and trying to stay on the forefront of things, and I mean it sounds like initial drone projects that you were doing, real estate stuff, is pretty standard, kind of what you imagine a plain level field. I'm struggling with the cinematic language here, but what I'm getting at is that you went from a standard consumer drone kind of back to this rudimentary technology with FPV drones, which you could explain for our listeners far better than I could, but bringing a whole new perspective to aerial videography. And you had a video that absolutely blew up. That was kind of one of the first like viral FPV videos that really put this FPV style on the map. And then I know that led to, a handful of huge clients. You came out here to the Portland area for the Portland Timbers to do a big stadium tour before the championship MLS Cup match. So anyway, do you want to talk with us just a bit about what that looked like? Did you see the opportunity with FPVs? What was it like to experiment with that? And also, I know there's a bunch of questions in here, but what was that like when you had that first viral video and things really started to pop?
Yeah. And first of all, that Timbers game was awesome that you got to come to. And I remember getting misty-eyed at how fun that game was because they scored in the 94th minute.
Dude.
And I was hugging random people.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the best experiences in my life. So thank you for that.
Super fun. But yes, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that question. And I would say with drones, the technology is constantly evolving. And so, keeping up with that is super important. And obviously FPV has blew up in 2020 during COVID. I think a lot of people had a lot of free time. And I was not an early adopter to FPV. And, I could have been flying FPV in 2016. But I thought that style of filming was for the kids and for the drone racers. And I was focused on cinematic footage. And I was dead wrong. I should have been, I should have seen the value of flying FPV, which is just more dynamic flying than your typical drone. And yeah, so during COVID, it opened up a lot of time to just practice things that you typically wouldn't. We all had a lot more free time than usual, trapped in our houses, and so really got into that. I worked with a couple other guys that really got into it, and we started playing around with this technology. And I had a friend named Jay that got really into flying these one-take style videos. So we did some stuff at like malls and movie theaters, and it slowly just started picking up traction. Where it was like, well, these are really, really unique and super fun. And so there was this bowling alley video at Bryant Lake Bowl in Minneapolis. It's kind of an iconic spot. And I can't take credit for this. Jay was the one that flew that flight. I was just in it, the guy polishing the bowling ball. But that video exploded and got I think 500 million views or something insane, and it really just changed the industry forever because of how many people were talking about it and reposting it. And like you said, James Gunn was like, hey, we got to have these guys on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I think, I'd have to look back at all the publicity, but it was crazy. Every single news publication in the world picked it up. I mean, it was BBC, New York Times, LA, like everywhere in the world. So it was just interviews constantly for a month straight. And yeah, it was really special, and that just opened up a whole new industry, and it was really exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, I love how that opportunity opened up for you. And mentioning Jay and having a community of folks that were there and kind of into it with you, what has that been like? And where I'm coming from is, I know a lot of folks that either have a side hustle, they have a passion project, they have something that they want to grow, but they feel very alone or isolated in it. Like they're the only one who's trying to do this thing. And to be so
Hmm.
lonely can make it really hard to grow. And so, can you speak to what it was like to have a community of a few other people that were taking drones and the opportunity as seriously as you were, and what that meant for your own growth, and how that even played in with kind of the risk calculus of going out on your own full time with Sky Candy?
Yeah, and I think videography in nature is a very communal industry. But yeah, it's something where it takes a team to do anything in this field, to do anything really well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's huge for just inspiration on learning new techniques and new tech. Um, Communities, everything. Yeah, and I think we're very fortunate to have a really great community here in Minneapolis that wants to create good films. But yeah, without that, I would have burned out a long time ago. I think that's what makes it fun. You know, if I was just out flying by myself every day, I would it would be it would be lonely. And yeah, you just meet really good friends in this industry, and it's a complete game changer. And we get to work with good friends every day, and it's great.
Oh,
Love that.
well,
Where for the company and the business today, you had that huge moment and obviously have capitalized on that in terms of the publicity and the views. So what did that launch you into, after that moment, and how has the company grown, and what's maybe a day in the life look like today?
Yeah, a lot has changed, and what's nice is it opened up a lot of doors to work with these huge brands. And um, when that video happened, we did have this community around this Rally Studios, and since then we've kind of all gone our separate ways. And most people still are in good graces, but there was it's business, so things happen, and there has been a separation. But what happened was it opened a lot of doors to work with really, really cool brands. And fortunately, Sky Candy got to fly a job for NFL Hard Knocks
Hmm.
for the Dallas Cowboys, and that was kind of the next viral video that hit. And it was cool. Patrick Mahomes was tweeting about it. There was just a lot of like big names talking about it, and so that was almost like the snowball effect was we get the opportunity to make more viral videos. Um, and so, that happened. And that opened the door for, more companies to see that, especially in sports, to say, hey, let's do something. And yeah, so we were able to really ride the momentum of these drone one takes. And yeah, we got to work with really cool teams. We got to do Wrigleyville last year. That got a lot of publicity. So the ability to take this momentum, continually create really good work that gets seen by a lot of eyeballs, has really propelled the company forward to get more and more opportunities. And one thing that the Cowboys video did was it got us FIFA. We got to shoot FIFA World Cup in Qatar in 2022, and they saw that video and they were like, "Hey, we want innovative approaches to film our stadiums." And yeah, so I mean, really, really great opportunities coming from it.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to just pinch yourself, right, over some of these things, or like the Bud Light video that you did with Sylvester Stallone fairly recently, right? That was for the Eagles, and the whole Rocky thing, and the opportunities that it's opened up have got to be crazy. I imagine with the success that you've had also comes, some unique challenges as well. In that, with all of these projects that you're doing, as awesome as they are, it also means that you're traveling all over the world. From you got to be in Dallas to shoot the Cowboys thing, you got to be in Qatar to shoot World Cup, and so talk to us. For our listeners, everybody dreams about what it's like to achieve success beyond your wildest dreams, but I imagine that there's a kind of another side to that success that's not as ideal as what you'd initially anticipate. And so, what are some of the challenges
Mhm.
now that you have on this side of the business that you either didn't anticipate or that are just hitting differently than, when you were grinding it out the first 5 years?
Yeah, I think there's just constant stressors, and yeah, one of those for Sky Candy is the travel. It's the more success you get, the more logistical hurdles you gotta jump over, and I have a family with two small kids, and so working around schedules and figuring that out because we're still in an infant stage of this company where I don't have a team to just send out to every job. I'm still kind of the face of a lot of this work, and so um, yeah, I think a lot of conversations from the family has been very, very helpful. And, talking to my wife, Phyllis, on, what does she need? How much is too much? Like, where's the balance there? And there's definitely been some dark times and really good times. And I think we've found what's working and what's too much and, what's not enough. And I think just the conversations around that, just having those conversations are super important. Um, yeah. And then I think remembering back, a lot of times you don't realize how good things are going, and you're constantly thinking like, oh, it could be better, or we missed out on this. And I've found it very helpful to look back to 2019 and remember, hey, look at how far we've come. Like, look at how good things are compared to then. Like, or like,
Mm.
if you told my 20-year-old self that I'd be doing this for a living, I should, I should, I would have a smile, the biggest smile on my face, and I should have a smile on my face every day, knowing like this is my dream. I'm living my dream, and on the day to day, sometimes you forget that, and it's really helpful to remember where you were and how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easy to lose sight of that, and taking time to reflect on the journey, taking time to reflect on the lessons and the success is just vital for moving forward. And in that same thought, you've clearly been on the forefront of this industry and ridden the wave and the need that's come, and you leaned into your expertise. Curious what you see the future of the industry. What do you see the future of your company? Obviously, you have to
Mhm.
continue to push and drive. So, where do you think this thing's going next?
Yeah, it's right now, we're still in the infant stages of this industry, and there's a lot of opportunity in the live stream realm. So live streaming for sports, and you see that more and more. Every sporting event. I don't know if you watched the World Series this year, but there were uh, FPV drones flying around pregame, and if there was a home run, it would be flying on the field, and it's giving these broadcasters just this new look that really
Hmm.
wows the viewers. And what's cool about them is they're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. When Skycam got introduced, it blew the viewer away, where you can have these aerial views around football games. And then I don't know if you remember when they started using depth of field for sports games, where all of a sudden you see Tom Brady in focus and everything else is blurred behind, and so whoa, this looks amazing compared to your generic cameras that they were using before. And so there's a huge push right now that we're working with a lot of sports teams, the leagues, and the broadcasters on finding a way to integrate these into sports safely. Um, and it's so new to everyone. Everyone wants to do it. Everyone just wants to make sure it's safe. And so we're trying to develop the safest drone possible that can live stream. So that is kind of the future, what we're really focusing in on, especially of the consistency of these contracts where, a lot of work we do is one-offs with corporations, and it's great, but to get a contract over years is what we striving for.
That's really cool. And I'm curious too, just you obviously, Nick kind of alluded to this, like, and you've said it too. You caught this industry at just an amazing time, kind of this crucial point of where it was brand new to the consumer, but also drones themselves were becoming more attainable to folks like yourself that were just starting out. And now in 2023, you can go to Costco and pick up a drone that's 4 times better than your first drone for $300. And so the technology is a lot more accessible. It's a lot more affordable. Do you feel like this is still an area where somebody who, as a hobbyist and is wanting to turn it into more of a full-time thing, like, is there still opportunity for those guys to get into it? Have they missed that wave entirely? That's always a question that we get from people that are wanting to start something. It's just, did I miss it? Did I miss my shot?
Mm.
I'm curious what
I
you
think for
think.
a lot of people, yes. I think, yeah, I think it's harder now than it was. However, I think there's still specific niches that if you attack one sector of the industry and really learn it and have a great understanding of what that is, there's still room for you. And I think um, from a if you're looking to eventually get hired as a drone operator, I think there's plenty of room for really talented, skilled operators. I think if you're going to start a company, it's going to be a little more difficult just because there's a narrowing down of companies right now. There's going to be 10 to 15 really big players that are going to get 90% of the work, and then there's going to be everyone else fighting over the 10%. So I think it's difficult, but not unfeasible. There's still a long way to go in the evolution of this industry, and we're not even close to where to the end point. So yeah, I'd say it's possible. It's definitely possible to still get in this industry, especially like one easy way to get into it is FPV fly-throughs for real estate. I think that's an easy thing to learn now with the new DJI Avata. You can put a month of practicing in, understand how to fly that system, and reach out to realtors and make $400 to $800 per fly through.
Mhm.
And I've seen it firsthand. I have a friend who did that locally who right now it's a little slow because the real estate market is slow. But this last summer, I saw him have a nice little side hustle doing that, and he just started up this year. So I think there's still room for entrepreneurs to make a little bit of a splash in this industry.
Uh, that principle of finding a niche and specializing in something where you're able to add value to the market, I think that applies to whether you're wanting to get into doing drone work as a side hustle, or whatever your side hustle is. If you feel like you're in a saturated industry or market, to really hone in on one particular
Mm-hmm.
thing where you can add value, that you can do it better than the majority of the other people that
Mm-hmm.
are offering it, is a good route to take. All right, Nick, I'll
Mm-hmm.
turn it back to you.
Well, and I know as we're coming here to wrap up this thing pretty quick, one of the things, obviously, our podcast is titled Abundant Journey, and we've had the ability and privilege to kind of follow you along your story and your journey. But the abundance concept comes from, not having a scarcity mindset that the world oftentimes chases after and really is so linear in their thinking. I think one of the ways you talked about it was that corporate comfortable job, that scarcity mindset of just getting by, just barely having one or two things that you're going. Whereas the world is full of potential, full of opportunities, and you've not only lived it, but you've traveled it. I mean, with the places that Sky Candy has taken you. So, really just, I don't know that I have a specific question as much as, how do you view abundance in this industry versus scarcity? And maybe what are some things you've seen as you've been willing to jump and go for your dreams. I mean, obviously rewarded for it, but just speak a little bit to
Mm.
abundance for scarcity, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think there is some scarcity mindset in this industry where you feel as if you see someone else winning, you're losing, but that's not the case at all. There's enough work to go around, and I found like the people that are the most successful are the ones that are willing to work well with others and to like we said in like the community aspect of it, to build their community and to learn from others. And yeah, if you're able to develop a lot of good friendships, and you're gonna be most likely successful. I see it a lot where there's a lot of animosity in this industry as well, where everyone's going after a lot of the same clients, and sometimes that creates some animosity, and that just that never works. Once you become known as the person that's that's constantly jealous, that's trying to tear people down, it it doesn't no one wants to work with you at that point. So I think just being open to basically sharing the work, working well with others is huge.
It's good. This has been awesome. We're jumping into the last gold nugget round. It's the same four questions we ask all of our guests. I know we've had quite a few discussion points on some of these, but here, let's dive in. So, at Abundant Journey, we talk about the five F's, and I just am going to have you pick one of these and tell us as we are walking into 2024 here, how are you working on improving or growing in that area? So, one of the five here: family, faith, fitness, finance, and future.
Do I just pick one,
Yeah.
or do I go all five?
If you want to go all five,
Just,
great, but one's just
just
awesome.
one.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. Family, fitness, faith. What else we
Finance
got?
and future. Yeah.
Finance and future. Um, well, this is maybe kind of boring, but I've been thinking a lot about just fitness in terms of like physical fitness and mental fitness, and how I can operate at a high level. For the physical fitness, I have a horrible back, and I throw my back out constantly. And a big portion of me just being ready to do my job is just maintenance, and sometimes it's just slowing down and realizing like, look, I got to take care of myself, otherwise I can't take care of my work and my family, and everything gets derailed. And so, taking time to spend an hour doing yoga, doing those small things, that's gonna pay off in the long run, instead of just go travel, and then you break down, and you can't be there for your employees and your family.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the mental side of things too. It's so easy to catastrophize and just get yourself in a stressed out state when you're running a business. And so just taking the time to wake up, pray, have a quiet time, get off your phone, and really dial in like what's important, and having like a really good perspective on things. I seem very people say I seem pretty calm and collected on the outside, but I'm a very anxious person, and I let that I really let that get to me. And so if something goes wrong with the business, where like maybe there's a job I really wanted and we lose it, that can just derail me. And so I I'm really working on just calmness and
Yeah.
peace of mind. So yeah, and it's been a good 6 months once I really dialed in quiet time and meditation and prayer.
That's super good. And we've had some folks talk physical fitness, and that's their goal moving into the next year, and something that's on top of their mind. It all ties in together, but we haven't had too many people talk about the mental side. And even I think earlier you talking about reflecting back on your journey and spending
Mhm.
time being grateful for where you've come from. A lot of times that helps you be grounded, I think, in spite of where you want to go, because we get so focused on next, 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 next. So I love that.
Mhm.
That's a great answer. Next one here. What's a quote from a book or mentor that stuck with you along your journey?
Ooh, this is probably this is the one I was worried about. It's gonna catch me off guard. I I don't have a lot of quotes in my back pocket, but one that's always kind of stuck with me since high school was Teddy Roosevelt's little poem about the man in the arena.
Yeah.
And it sucks because Miley Cyrus got it tattooed on her, and it's like I feel embarrassed now, even having this as my quote. But Teddy just made a great point of like the credit goes to the person that actually goes in and does the work, and instead of being with the cold, timid hearts on the sideline critiquing everyone, actually like going in and doing it, you'll
Yeah.
find just so much more fulfillment in life, and I think there's a lot of truth to that.
No, that's one of the all-time favorites for a lot of us. So I'm right there with you. That's good. Next one here. What's a dream or goal that you have that you've not been able to make happen yet?
Hmm. Dream or goal that I have not made happen yet. That's a good question. You're gonna have to trim this up. I'm gonna have a lot of one thing that my wife and I are sort of just getting into now is real estate and rental properties, and we have one cool rental in the woods of Wisconsin right now, and I think our goal down the road is to maybe have like 4 or 5 properties that we're running. And I mean, Phyllis runs it, my wife. She's the one that's communicating with the guests and doing the work. And I think that's kind of a new side hustle that we've really been enjoying. And um, so I think
Good.
that's another business goal for us.
That's
I'm gonna
good.
start
Very
sending you
rewarding.
listings out here in the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, please do, please
There you
do.
go.
Phyllis,
Yeah,
yeah, we love coming out to the Highway 1. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
right.
It's beautiful out here. Of course, we got a lot of rain going right now, but definitely visit in July to September.
Deal.
Well, last one here. At the end of your life, what do you hope you'll be remembered for?
I, I would like to be remembered um, for someone that gives more than he takes, and I think um, I think in your 20s you're very selfish. In your 30s, you sort of have this realization that like it's not about you, it's about family and other people. And I hope to progressively uh, become more selfless and give my time to others, and to really just find more and more community. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
Totally.
to think, I would like people to say he thought of himself less and was kind and thought was thoughtful of others. I think that's kind of the goal.
Good work.
Yeah.
I love that, man. And that totally captures the heart of Abundant Journey, where, what we see time and time again is just that following your entrepreneurial dreams and desires does kind of open up the opportunity for more radical generosity. We've just seen that the
Mhm.
people that have been, most of them that have been most successful are also the most generous with their time and with their knowledge, and being able to help others out. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of the things that you've learned along the way in your journey, and really excited for your future as you continue to grow Sky Candy, as you build a team around you, as you have more and more opportunities. I'm sure that us and our listeners will continue to see your work, whether we recognize it as yours or not right away. Just awesome, all the things that you're doing. So we will drop links to your social media profiles, as well as a couple of the videos that we had mentioned in here. Is there anywhere else that you'd send people for them to connect with you or follow along?
I'd say website, Instagram. We are on TikTok. I'm never on TikTok, but and then our YouTube channel is probably a great place.
Cool. Well, I'll include links to all of those in the show notes. So listeners, be sure to check those out. And if you enjoyed what you heard here, be sure to send it along to a friend and leave us a review. Otherwise, we will be back next week. Thanks, everybody.